Hey, this is Alexx O'Nell, and you're watching me on Filmy Beat.
Hi Alexx, welcome
Namaskar.
to Filmy Beat. Namaskar.
With Ram Madhvani. An amazing filmmaker who's completely reinventing the way that cinema is made in India and really internationally. So let's hope there's something coming up. I have no idea. Maybe Kfia 2. You never know, based on the final scene that... If you're on stage and you're performing comedy and people are crying, you've done something wrong. If you're performing drama and people are laughing, you've done something very wrong.
Oh, yeah.
So you have instant feedback.
Yeah.
I love acting, I love making music, and India has given me the opportunity to do those things. Well, thanks for bringing up Joker.
You know what? I love that movie.
Did you? Awesome.
Whatever people say,
My friends'
I love
kids love that film because
You're single right now or not?
I'm not single right now.
Okay. My heart's broken. Hi guys, welcome to Filmy Baatein with Filmy Beat. This is Murtaza Iqbal, and today on my show I have someone who has not just been a part of blockbuster films in Bollywood but even down south. So I would say that he has actually covered the whole Indian cinema. Well, here we have with us Alexx O'Nell. Hi Alexx.
Namaskar.
To Filmy Beat. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, and it is my honor to be here, to be on your inaugural
Yes.
episode of your brand new
My
show.
brand new show, yes.
It's very exciting. Thank you for having me.
Yes, so first of all, I would like to ask you this, Alexx. Have you learned to say Khima Bhare Salan?
Right out of the gate, that's the first question. Wow. Kima bare salam morak kupulao.
Yes.
It took me a long time, but I had Amitabh Bachchan as my guide on that journey. So by the end of the film, I was able to say it properly. But yeah, thanks for reminding me. It's been a long time since I've thought about Chinikam, but it's a film that really introduced me to this industry. And as we'll talk about in a moment, it has a very interesting connection to Khufiya.
Yes, of course, and that's Tabu, man.
Yes, exactly.
After 16 years, I think you guys have worked again. How has been to be on the set with her again after such a long gap?
Phenomenal. Well, you know, the experience that I had with Tabu in Chinikam was really just as a spectator. All of her scenes were with Amitabh Ji, and all of mine scenes were with Amitabh, but we never had any scenes together. So I was just seeing her, watching her perform, and obviously being awestruck by that. She's a legend. But we had no scenes together, even though our credits at the end of the film were close to each other. So that was lovely, a wonderful experience, even just to be in the same room with her. But this thing happened again. I don't know if you know, this film is called Urmi. It's myself, Prithviraj. Yes, a South Indian film by Santosh Sivan. And it also stars Janili D'Souza and Prabhudeva and Tabu. But once again, no scenes together. So finally, on the third try with Khufiya, the long-awaited opportunity to act face-to-face with this incredible actress finally came to fruition, and it was worth the wait, because I think that the scene that we share in this film, it's a long one. It's only one, but it's a long one, and it's a very interesting one, and there's actually a lot to talk about behind that scene, because it's very different from the way that it was written in the screenplay. But I have to say that it was well worth the wait, because it's a beautiful scene. She's performed phenomenally well, and Vishalji has captured it beautifully, like the entire film, like all of his films. He's captured it beautifully.
Right. You know, of course, I would like to know, did she remember you? Did she say that, okay, we have done movies together, but we didn't have any scenes? Did you have a conversation like that?
And she was sweet enough to at least pretend to remember me. I don't know if she truly did, but we had met a few times along the way. You know, you do tend to meet almost everyone involved in a film, especially when those films are being shot on location. And Urmi was a film that we shot in Malshe Jaghat in the midst of the monsoon, with mud up to our ankles, sometimes to our knees. So it was an experience shooting, and one of the best parts of that experience was meeting some of the phenomenal actors that were assembled. Even Vidya Balan did a role, and having done a double role in that film, I was exposed to essentially the entire cast, even Tabu, who did only a song. So she was kind enough to either remember me or pretend to remember me. But she's really sweet. She's not only a wonderful actor, but she's a wonderful human being. So she certainly made me feel welcome, which was lovely.
Right. You know, of course, how was it to team up with Vishesh Bhatt? He is one of the best filmmakers we have in the industry, and of course with Kfia also, he has once again proved that. So how was it to team up with him? How did you get this role? Tell us something about
Well, there's
that.
two big questions.
Yeah.
I will start with your first question. What was it like to work with Vishal? And you're right. I've worked with some of the best filmmakers that this country has to offer. And you know, I mentioned a moment ago Santosh Shivan, who is internationally recognized as probably one of the best cinematographers that is alive today. You know, also Srijit Mukherjee. He and I have done 3 projects together.
Yes.
I've had the opportunity to shoot with Tigmanshu Dhulia on 2 films. With Ram Madhvani. I mean, an amazing filmmaker who's completely reinventing the way that cinema is made in India and really internationally. But Vishal Bharadwaj is a class apart. He's known for his not only his competent direction but his beautiful art direction. His films, you look at a frame and you know.
Yeah.
It's a Vishal Bharadwaj film. So that was truly a privilege, and it is an experience that I will forever remember, and hopefully I'll have more. I mean, I've had the opportunity to work with many of the directors that I've worked with multiple times. So let's hope there's something coming up. I have no idea. Maybe Kfia 2. You never know. Based on the final scene that Tabu and I share in the film, it looks like these 2 minds have come together, and maybe there are more things that they can do together in the future.
Is there a hint by any chance
I don't
on
know.
Kfia 2?
No idea. But to answer your other question, how did I come across this role?
Yeah.
I believe the casting director, who I also worked with in Ye Vatan Mere Vatan, another upcoming film, put me up for this role. I was actually on a paragliding trip in South Africa when the call came in from my manager saying, you know, here's this role, this is the film, this is the director, this is the cast, and by then I already knew I wanted to do it because assembling this incredible group of cast, crew, I mean, it's a dream team to be able to work with. So before she had finished, my manager Shrida, she does a phenomenal job of keeping in touch with me no matter where I am. Even if I'm soaring above the earth in a paraglider, she'll know how to reach me. So before she'd even finished the sentence, I knew I wanted to do it. But it came to me in a way that most of the projects do, and I think that's essentially through recommendations. You know, I can kind of trace my career all the way through, and I can figure out, okay, you know, I did this film, and then this DOP recommended me to this film, and then from there an actor recommended me here, and so on. So really word of mouth and recommendation is how my career has been built, and I think Khufiya is no exception.
Right. You know, of course, I would like to go back 15, 16 years back when you
So would
actually started it. When you actually started it, you know, I would like to know, you are not from India. What made you think that I have to start working as an actor in Indian film industry?
That's a good question. So actually, I was a stage actor in the US for 10 years before I even saw a film camera. And I think that was a really good way to learn how to act, because if you're on stage and you're performing comedy and people are crying, you've done something wrong. If you're performing drama and people are laughing, you've done something very wrong.
Oh, yeah.
So you have instant feedback.
Yes.
With regards to how your performance is landing with the audience. So 10 years of theater, and then I had done television commercials, some television work in the US, and modeling. And modeling is an interesting profession, especially in India. When I was here, I was traveling for something totally unrelated, and I actually was approached by a friend of mine who was casting for an ad. And they were looking for models, they were looking for actors. And the interesting thing is that a lot of the biggest directors, even the biggest directors in India, between their films will shoot ads. And so, you know, R. Balki, for example, who was working for Low Lintas at the time, was making ads. And I think I met him through an ad. He put me in Chini Kam, and then I was recommended through someone involved with Chini Kam for Loins of Punjab Presents. And then after those 2 films did quite well, along came Nach Baliye. And Nach Baliye gave me pan-India exposure. So I was never really gunning to work in Bollywood. Obviously, I was aware of Bollywood cinema. I was aware of Indian cinema in general. But it's just something that organically happened. And I grew to love it. And I love acting. I love making music. And India has given me the opportunity to do those things.
Right. You know, of course, I would like to know that you have worked in South films as well and Bollywood films as well. If I have to ask you, is there a difference between these 2 cinemas? Do you find anything when you go on the set, or is it the same?
you said a moment ago, let's go back 15, 16 years. I'd like to do that. And one of the reasons why I'd like to go back is to spend a little more time working on the South Indian projects that came my way. If you're familiar with Madrasa Pattanam, which was Amy Jackson's first film, it was me, Arya, and Amy Jackson. A film by A.L. Vijay, who's one of the finest directors in South India. It was a beautiful film, and I remember it had released all over the world, but it was never promoted. This was a time when South Indian cinema was as good as it is today, but they didn't put budgets into promoting it. Even putting up a poster in Mumbai was something that just didn't happen. So it would play in cinemas where there were perhaps Tamilians settled. There would be a single screen cinema and it would play there. And it played in New York, it played in Canada, but only where there were people from that specific community. And that was a shame, because some of these films, whether it's Urmi or Madrasa Pattanam, they're absolutely lovely films. So what I love about cinema today is that South Indian, whether it's Malayalam cinema, Tamil cinema, Telugu, it's making its way and finding an audience not just in North India, but around the world. It's really wonderful to see that, and I wish that the films that I'd worked on in the South back then got that kind of attention and got the respect that they deserved. I, like a lot of people, actually looked at focusing in the Hindi market, and unfortunately chose perhaps some lesser films in Hindi when I should have chosen the stronger films in South India. But hey, these are things that we look back in hindsight and we see it with 20/20 vision, and there's no way we can change it, but I'm happy to say that I am actually working on some really, really interesting South Indian projects now. So making up for it perhaps, but working with Prithviraj again and Mohanlal, who's a phenomenal force in cinema internationally. The South Indian projects are among the ones that I hold in the highest esteem, and I look forward to making some more.
Right, but I asked you, when you go on the sets, do you find any difference?
Do I find a difference?
Yes.
On the
in
set,
the style of working or anything like that?
Compared to what? If we're comparing it, for example, to Bengali cinema, all cinema is made obviously with a budget in mind. Right. Now, if your audience, if you're making a film in West Bengal, in Bengali, is essentially for the state of West Bengal and Bangladesh and the diaspora that's spread around the world, you build your budget that way. Right. And so I found that in West Bengal, we tend to make films on a far, far smaller budget, but it doesn't make them any less beautiful. Every rupee is really squeezed. And we really take advantage of the natural beauty of West Bengal. And I just finished a Bengali film shot in Bihar, which was absolutely stunning. But anyway, when we look at South Indian films, for example, I just began Lucifer 2, Empuran. They are made with such incredibly large budgets. And I don't think I'm the first person telling you all this, so I'm not letting the cat out of the bag here. Right. But compared to Hindi cinema, definitely compared to Bengali and Malayalam cinema, Tamil cinema really has huge budgets. And I think that you oftentimes can see that on the screen. Rather than in a Bengali film, we may have 2 helicopters, like Ethiopijan. In a Malayalam film or a Tamil film, you may have 7. So I think that kind of comes through on screen. But in terms of the fundamentals of telling a story, it's all the same. Regardless of the language, regardless of the industry, regardless of the people that you're working with, everyone is trying to tell a story the best way that they possibly can and really connect with the hearts of the audience. Obviously give a visual spectacle, but in the end, these stories are actually quite simple, and they're about people and their relationships, and you really want to connect heart to heart with the audience, and no amount of money is going to make you do that. You can only really get that way through performances.
Right. I would like to know, Alex, of course, we have always been seeing that when we watch international movies, Indian actors don't really get that kind of lead roles. Now, of course, Priyanka is breaking all the barriers in doing that. I would like to know, when you started in Indian cinema, how difficult was it for you to get roles? Because of your nationality was very different. And here, of course, when it comes to Indian films, when we talk about lead actors, most of them are Indians only. So how difficult was it for you to get roles and then make a market?
It's a great question. I'll rewind slightly, and yes, all due credit to Priyanka. I think she's doing amazing things. I've never worked with her. I've never even met her. Actually, I did. I met her at Olive once, years ago, when Olive on Thursday nights was like the place to be. But anyway, but people that I have worked with and whose careers I'm watching in absolute awe, Ali Faisal has done phenomenal work. I mean, breathtaking. Internationally, Kandahar was excellent. He also did a film with Dame Judi Dench. Phenomenal performance and a beautiful film. Rajkumar Rao, The White Tiger. What a performance. And Rajkumar and I have done 2 films in a series together. So these are people who I've worked with personally, I care a great deal about. And it just gives me goosebumps when I see them succeeding so well on the international stage and in lead roles. Now, I think the way that films are made internationally, there's maybe a little bit less focus on lead, secondary, tertiary. I consider what Ali did in Kandahar to be a lead role. Now, you may say Gerard Butler's the lead role, but whatever, it's semantics. He had excellent screen time and made the most of every frame he was in. So to get back to your question, however, how difficult was it for me to get roles? I don't know. I think that now with the rise of OTT, with more and more fresh young directors, writers, getting the opportunity to make content and get it out there without the constraints of saying, okay, you know, we're going to have to position this in such a way that it will play in theaters for at least a weekend, and then that means we've got to spend, let's say we spend 5 crores making it, another 5 to 7 just promoting it and getting it out there so people will go see it in the theaters. It's a different economic calculation now with the Disney, the Hotstar, Netflix, and Amazon, where the producers are willing to take some more risks. This whole OTT series platform, it's changed the way that actors have gotten roles. Some of the guys that I worked with in Chittagong many, many years ago, Nawazuddin Siddiqui and Rajkumar Rao, but there were also a lot of other actors in there that are only now getting their due. And it's because of series. Even the biggest actresses and actors that have done extremely well in film are also working on OTT platforms now. So I think that I do a lot more work now than I did before. Before I was doing mainly only films, and there was time between each film in terms of shooting and release. Now I'm doing a lot more things simultaneously. But how hard is it to get roles? You know, I don't know. I've been quite lucky because I think that a lot of times people that are making films will rely on the advice of the people they're working with, whether that's the DOPs or writers, directors. And I've really benefited from being recommended. As I mentioned a moment ago, I can kind of trace each film to a previous film or series and so on. But I think more than anything else, I've benefited from the fact that I've had interests other than acting. Whenever I'm not filming, I'm paragliding or scuba diving or motorcycle riding or any one of my other hobbies and interests, making music, for example. And so this gives me a kind of the critical ability to say no to projects that aren't right for me. And I think by saying no to projects that weren't right for me, and I made some mistakes, of course, in that way, saying yes to projects that weren't right for me, but saying no to the ones that aren't right for me, emphatically chasing up on the ones that were doing the best that I possibly could between action and cut, I haven't really felt the struggle that I think a lot of people may have. Because when films are not happening, I turn my focus to other things. And I don't really focus too much on the things I'm not getting. I know it's a strange answer, but I don't really know how hard it's been for me to get work. I have noticed that I'm doing more and more work as time goes by, that roles that I'm getting are integral to the story, but they always have been. So, I don't know. Difficult question to answer, I think.
Right. You know, of course, as I said, you have been quite lucky with the directors, but even with your co-stars, like very rare people get a chance to start with Amitabh Bachchan.
Yeah, I know,
Then
right?
of course there was Akshay Kumar in Joker. you have been that lucky. Tell us some anecdotes about working with these superstars. When
Well,
you work with them.
thanks for bringing up Joker.
You know what? I love that movie.
Did you? Awesome.
Whatever people say.
My
I
friends'
love that
kids
film.
love that film because it just appeals to kids, and you know, each film I think needs to find its audience,
Yeah.
and now with films living their second lives on these platforms like Amazon and Hoi Choi
Yeah.
and Netflix, they're there for people that want to see them. It's not necessary that they do well in theaters, and Joker did not do well in theaters, and that's fine. But there are people like yourselves and many others that I know that appreciate these films, and I'm glad that they're available. I'm glad that they're out there, and I'm happy to have made it. Akshay and I are actually working on another film right now. We just shot in Delhi together for the first time after Joker. He did remember me, and we did have a good laugh about how that film went down. Yeah, you're right. I have had the privilege of working with some of the finest actors and directors in the world, in my opinion. You know, whether it's Nawazuddin Siddiqui in Chittagong or Manoj Bajpayee, or even the new generation, Randeep Hooda in Mayor Charles, or Richa Chadha, who I got the opportunity to work with twice, most recently in Inside Edge. So, I mean, I have endless anecdotes, but suffice it to say that you're right. To have begun my career looking into the eyes of Amitabh Bachchan, and to have worked with the Amitabh Bachchan of Bengali cinema, Prasenjit Chatterjee, in my debut in Bengali cinema, or to have worked with you know, Mohanlal, for example, or any of the host of incredible actors that I've had the opportunity to work with in the South, Prabhudeva, for example, who's a massive force on his own. It has been a privilege. I will say that there's something interesting that many of these actors share, and I think it comes across sometimes on screen, but most of the time not. And there's an anecdote for you. When I was shooting with Prabhudeva, every one of our scenes would be completely different because he would always throw in something totally unscripted, and that really caught me off guard. Having come from a theater background, it's something I recognized, and it was easy for me to get into that groove with him. But it's in cinema, it's not something that every actor does. And Akshay Kumar does the same thing. And in fact, some of the funniest moments from Joker that I look back on and I laugh about were those impromptu improv moments that we shared. And that makes for a great scene partner. And Taboo is similar in that way.
Right. You know, Alex, as an actor, of course, your movies are always the talk of the town, but then, of course, your personal life too gets the attention. With you starting with Najmali and Shweta, and
Yeah.
of course, getting married. That marriage did great work out, and then, of course, your another relationship. You have always been, your personal life too has been, you know, people's media's attention, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't want to know about, you know, how it was or something. I just want to know that when a marriage doesn't work, how, as a person, it is difficult to handle that situation or
Well,
any relationship.
Well, that's a really good question. I think what I learned from that whole experience, well, first of all, you know, when people say a marriage failed and all of this and whatever, I got a lot out of that marriage. I don't regret it. I'm extremely thankful to have had Sweta in my life, and after her, Shama. They both taught me incredible lessons, and there are things that I learned that I benefit from till today. So I don't look at it as a failure, I look at it as an experience. And what I learned was, over time, to kind of compartmentalize my life and to be very open and honest about myself, but not necessarily to reveal too much about my personal life, whether that's my family, my mother in Europe, or my sister in Ireland, or my relationships, because I feel like it kind of detracts from the kinds of things that we really want to talk about. Yeah, I mean, sure, you know, relationships are important, but what I really find interesting to communicate about are the stories we're telling on screen, or the music that that I'm producing and releasing, whether it's, you know, on all of the Indian platforms, Hangama and Ghana and Savan and etc., or Spotify and Amazon, and putting the music videos on YouTube. Those are the things I really want to talk about, because those are the things that I'm actually working very hard to create. What's happening in my personal life may not actually be all that interesting, to be honest. But yeah, what I've learned is to compartmentalize a bit, and to not be so forthcoming with all of that, because it also, you know, those personal relationships, those are for me, you know?
Right.
And there's value in not revealing everything, I think.
Right, but I think a question from all your female fans: are you single right now or not?
I'm not single right now.
Okay. Many hearts broken.
Probably not too many. But yeah, I'm not single right now. But if you want to really understand what's going on in my heart, my music is what's closest to me. When we make films, it's a collaborative effort of you know, directors and writers and actors coming together and telling someone's story, not mine. But when it comes to music, I'm telling my own story. So for those that are heartbroken, don't be heartbroken. You can come connect heart to heart through my music.
Right. So lastly, before I wrap up the show, I want to know what's happening next. Though you have given me behind the scenes a lot of the details, but I think now it's on camera we talk about
Yeah,
it.
sure. You know, one of the things, as we mentioned in our chat before our chat, was that you never want to get ahead of the team in revealing information about upcoming stuff. But there's this great resource called IMDb, Internet Movie Database, and information only goes up there when it's approved by the producer or the owner of the project. So, you know, I can confirm essentially what's on there, and that is that there are some really, really lovely films coming up. Probably the most interesting is Ae Watan Mere Watan, which is myself and Sara Ali Khan in a cat and mouse game. It was a beautiful film to shoot, because we actually, for once, shot here in Mumbai. Most things aren't shot in Mumbai anymore, at least in my experience. You know, a lot of the films that I've shot recently, and even Arya, for example, was shot in Rajasthan. Buck, which is another series that's coming up with Divya Datta, is truly a captivating series. It's going to blow people's minds. But that we also shot in Rajasthan, in a palace. But Ae Watan Mere Watan is a beautiful film, and I'm extremely excited about it. And look out for more details. It's been announced. There's a short clip that's been released.
Sara's look also in
Yep,
it,
exactly. And there's banging on the door. That's me. But I'm not revealed yet. But just so you know, that's me.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a really, really nice film made by Dharmatic, who never cut corners and really give a project what it needs to be properly made. Lucifer 2, we've talked a little bit about. Poki Rajar Dim, which is my next Bengali feature, which is a children's film, fantasy, and very interesting and a lot of fun. But yeah, a lot of interesting things coming up. And on the music front, I'm headed back to Cape Town in November to put the finishing touches on my next song and music video. If you haven't seen it yet, please do check out These Four Walls. I released an acoustic version that was recorded here in India just a few weeks ago, coinciding with the release of Kfia to an extent. So I'm very excited about the upcoming music and also the films and series. Now, after years of shooting, a lot of these projects are finally getting completed. I mean, the effects of COVID have really been felt for a great deal of time. And some of the projects that were in development during COVID, like for example, Lucifer 2, is the sequel to a film.
It's
which
been
is
long.
4 years ago.
About it,
Yeah, so it's been a while that this was in the making. And only now are a lot of the effects of COVID finally being overcome. So there's a lot of great content out there, not just from me, but really from so many artists. And I'm just excited for the entire industry, music and film. There's so much beautiful, beautiful work that's getting released now.
Right. Alexx, thank you for being with us. It was so lovely chatting with you.
My pleasure. And congratulations on your new show.
Thank you, and all the best for your future projects.
Thank you very much. Thank you.